Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another webinar guest speaker series. My name is Kylie Flood. I'm a librarian with the Hawaii State Public Library System, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our guest speaker. Before we hand it over to our guest speaker today, I just want to say a few thank yous before we start. This project was made possible in part by the following organizations, including the Hawaii State Public Library System, Hawaii Mission Houses, UH West Oahu's James and Abigail Campbell Library, and the MLIS grant. So before we start today, I just want to introduce our guest speaker today. Her name is Linda Sueyoshi. She's the section head at the main library, the Hawaii State Library's Hawaiian and Pacific Collection. And today she's going to be sharing with you information about genealogy resources available through our state public library system. So without further ado, Linda, if you can turn on your camera and your mic, and I will hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me bring up my... Great. Thank you, Kylie, and thanks for having me and allowing me to present about the resources that we have here at the Hawaii and Pacific section and through the Hawaii State Public Library System. My name is Linda Sueyoshi. I'm the section head here at the Hawaii and Pacific section. And before we start, I wanted to mention that currently the Hawaii State Library is closed to the public. We're still doing the library takeout service, but the public can't come into our library yet, which makes this a little awkward, but just keep everything in mind for when we do reopen to the public. So a little bit about our building. We're located at 478 South King Street. We're on the corner of King and Punch Bowl. It's a pretty neat place to do research. Right next door to us is the Hawaii State Archives. Nearby is the Mission Houses Museum that has its own collection. And a couple blocks away is the Department of Health. The Hawaii and Pacific section is located on the first floor of the library at the Mauka end. We're also named the Samuel Kamakau Room as well. And you can see a couple of pictures of what our section looks like. This is looking Mauka and this is looking Makai. We collect books and material on Hawaii and the Pacific area, including Australia and New Zealand. And of course, we have our genealogy resources as well. Before we start, again, we're currently closed for wiki visits, unlike the other branches, but we are still available through our Ask a Librarian service and of course by telephone. And I wanted to also say that genealogy is a labor-intensive and time-consuming process. So I would strongly recommend that you try to do as much research as you can from home before you visit us, just to make the most of your time. It's downtown, so usually you have to get metered parking, so your time is limited. And Kylie's presentation about researching genealogy had some really good tips on how to prepare. So our librarians here are happy to help you access all the resources you need. But again, we're a busy reference desk, so you may not have the time to sit down with you one-on-one. But of course, we'll try our best. We're not professional genealogists. So depending on our experience, familiarity, with genealogy can vary from staff to staff, but we have our, we know our collection, so we're sure to help you. So all the resources that I'm going to mention, I think most of them are listed on our genealogy handout that you see on the right there. It's available through our website under bibliographies. So you can always download that and see a list of the things that I'm talking about. Okay, so a little bit about the equipment in our room. A lot of the things will be on microfilm. So you see our microfilm cabinets here. And we have two microfilm reader printers. So you can print out things that you find on there. If you don't know what microfilm is, it's like a roll of film with the images on it, and you have to put it on the machine there, and a light shines on it, and it projects the image. We also have a microfilm scanner, so that's great. If you bring a flash drive, you can scan the image for free, no cost. And I have to say the images come out better than the printouts. So I highly recommend the scanner. And we have computers here for you to use as well. Right now, well, this is pre-COVID conditions. It was for our internet computers, you had a 1 hour session with automatic extensions, as long as nobody else placed a reservation on your computer. But now we have wiki visits, so it's 45 minutes at the branches, in case you wanted to visit the branches and use their internet computers. But some people, like if you want to use the resources that are not from our own databases, like some of the ones I'm going to mention, like Find a Grave, outside resources, yeah, you'll have to use our internet computer. Otherwise, I really recommend you use our catalog computers. There's no time limit. You can only access the catalog and our databases, but it's there for you to use. Okay, so thought I'd mention a couple of our databases first before we get started. The library system subscribes to Ancestry, which is a really powerful genealogy resource. Usually you have to come into the library, get on one of our computers to use it. It's because it's so powerful. However, of course, COVID happened and people have to stay at home. So they allowed access from home through our databases page, just like our other databases, up until June 30th, 2021 is the last I've seen. They extended it in the past, but so far stayed on this date. So I highly recommend you take advantage of that while you can. Otherwise, yeah, you have to come into the library to be able to use Ancestry. There's also Heritage Quest, which is like a Ancestry Lite. It doesn't have as much resources. It's not as easy to use because you have to go collection by collection, but you can use it from home with your library card. If you haven't used our databases before from home, you just use the barcode number on your library card, and the PIN number should be the last 4 digits of your phone number when you signed up. And it's available at our website at www.librarieshawaii.org. A couple of other things you might be interested in. There is a database for Japanese American relocation centers. These are all the ones that were on the mainland, so not Hawaii. But if you know a relative who was interned during the war, you can check that out. And we have like limited amount of newspapers for the Honolulu Advertiser and Star Bulletin, also available through ProQuest. Okay, so I'll get started with vital records, since that's what people are mostly interested in. This is just a little overview here to show you, like, yeah, depending on what time period you're looking at, there's different sources. So yeah, the time period of the event will lead you to different sources that you're going to take a look at. So I'm going to go through these one by one. Microfilm. This is microfilm. This is the Department of Health birth, marriage, and death certificates and index. This is located in those microfilm cabinets I showed you. The index, you'll see, covers 1909 to around 49. And we have also certificate images from 1909 to around 1920. What you're going to have to do is, if you want to take a look at this film, is go to the index first. It'll just be like a reel, and you'll see these index cards with basic information typed onto it, but it'll also have a registration number. So if you find somebody, write down that registration number, and if their event happened between 1909 and 1920, then they should be in the certificate reels. And if you look at the reels, they're in location, they're arranged by location and by registration number. So you will have to go by that registration number when you look it up on the film. So again, yeah, that was Department of Health film between 1909 and 1949 information. And you find a lot of great information on there. Of course, the parents' names on the birth certificate doesn't exactly give you the birth date of the parents, but it gives you their age, so you can figure out what year they were born. Of course, the race. You might recognize this later marriage certificate, which is bonus information because you get both the bride and the groom's parents' information. The death certificate is also interesting. They have this family information, like the name of the father and mother, but they don't always fill that part out. Okay, so if the person you're looking for was born before 1909, you can check our Territory of Hawaii Birth Index that covers 1896 to 1909. This is a print volume set that we keep at the reference desk. It's all the same information in all three volumes. It's just the way it's indexed. So one volume will be by name of the father, one by the name of the mother, and the other one by the name of the child. If there's a little example here of a sheet from the index that's by the name of the child, and you can see that a lot of children were not named at the time of their birth, so it'll just be blank. I blurred out the names. And in this case here, the name of the father is also not given. So you just have the name of the mother, but you do know that a child was born to her, and where it happened and what is the birth date of the child. So you do get some information from that. Let's see. So if you don't find anybody in that index, or maybe the birth was before 1896, you can check our delayed birth records index. This is a pretty neat resource. It's arranged purely alphabetically by last name, so it's simple to search as well. Has a lot of information. You can, of course, you get their name, their married name even, their parents' names. So it has a lot of information in there. The delayed birth records are for people who didn't get a birth certificate at the time of their birth. So they had to apply for one later on in their life, like maybe they were born at home and they didn't bother to go register it at the time. And then later on in their life, maybe they need a passport, so they have to get a birth certificate. So they would apply for one of these. And the great thing about it is that to prove who you are who you say you are, they would have to get people to testify on their behalf. And so when you look at the certificates, you get this neat little picture along with all your information. And all the testimonies that were given for you. So they would talk about your family and your parents and your siblings. So it's a great source of information. However, while our index covers a lot of people, the earliest person in here listed was born in 1859. And I guess the latest was 1970, but the bulk of them will be like in the early 1900s or late 1800s. We only have the certificate images from between 1904 to 1913. And even though it says certificate of Hawaiian birth, that just means you're born in Hawaii. Okay, so since a lot of people will be researching from home, I'm going to be going over online resources for all the things I'm bringing up. For vital records, um, the Hawaii State Archives has vital records as well that are different from what we have here at the Hawaii State Library. We have those things that I showed you, but at the archives they have a lot of things that are like pre 1900 that they are putting online. So if you go to their website at the Hawaii State Archives, you'll see this vital statistics collection, 1826 to 1929. I urge you to take a look at that. If you're familiar with ulukau.org, the Hawaiian Electronic Library, they have a Hawaiian genealogy indexes site. They've digitized, what they did here was they digitized the indexes from the archives. So if you find anybody in this index, they should have something at the archives. But they've also been getting the scans of this certificates or records involved and attaching it to the index. So I think they're constantly adding to it. So it's another great resource. It's all archives information. And of course, ancestry.com or Ancestry Library Edition, what we have. You can, if you take a look at their website, I did a card catalog search to see what they had for Hawaii births. And if you take a look here, they do have this collection for marriage certificates, birth certificates. Take a look at it, and it is they are adding the Department of Health records up on there, like what we have. So I think they're still adding. So if you don't find them in Ancestry, and they should be in the date ranges I showed you. Yeah, you can always take a look at our film. Okay, obituaries. So these are another great source of information. They tell you about the person, and they give you a list of surviving family members. I just wanted to add that not everybody had an obituary published for them at the time of their death. It could be they were from the mainland, so the obituaries in the mainland paper, or some people just don't want an obituary published for them. So, and also like things happen, like the Honolulu Star Advertiser no longer puts family information in their obituaries that they publish. So, yeah, things like that happen. And, but at least families still publish their own obituaries with the photo. So there is still a lot of information out there. Okay, so obituaries show up in newspapers. So you're going to have to take a look at newspaper indexes to find some of the old ones. The Hawaii State Library publishes the Honolulu index to the Honolulu Advertiser and Honolulu Star Bulletin. It goes all the way back to 1929 and ends at 1994 for the print indexes, and goes online from 1989 to present for our online newspaper index. And we also have indexes for the neighbor island papers with body coverage, as well as Hawaii State Archives microfilm of birth notices and marriage notices from 1850 to 1950, and then their obituary index from 1836 to 1950. So this one is on microfilm from the archives. And just to let you know that, different indexes will have different ways of listing the obituaries. For ours, like the early indexes show they have it under deaths. Our later ones, they have it under obituaries. So there's different ways of finding it. So, and we can always help you with that. So there are also a lot of online resources. Again, our newspaper index to the Advertiser and Star Bulletin starts at 1989 up to present, available through our catalog. Just click on the newspaper index tab. This is our old catalog. You can also find our 1929 to 1969 gold set you see here, digitized and available on ukao.org. And Chronicling America is also a great source for digitized newspapers. So that one you can just do a keyword search for if you go to Chronicling America at the Library of Congress. This one, they only digitized newspapers, Hawaiʻi newspapers from before 1922, 1922 and earlier, and only English language papers. BYUH has its own website for newspaper obituaries. What they did was they transcribed the information from the papers into a Word document that you could look up on this website here. So their coverage also is just 1989 to 2013, the last I saw. Okay. So Ancestry.com does have its own obituary index too. If you just do a search of anybody, there's a lot that comes up. So obituaries is one of them. And I believe they're getting like their information through newspapers.com. I think they might have bought newspapers.com. But so if you do a search on Ancestry, you'll see a bunch of obituary indexes come up. Or newspapers.com is this subscription website. You have to pay to use it, but it's really powerful. They've digitized a whole bunch of newspapers that you can search for obituaries with. But yeah, the library doesn't subscribe to it. So yeah, you have to get your own paid subscription. But again, you can use Ancestry.com. It's pulling the information from newspapers.com for obituaries. So you can just get at least the transcribed information from the obituary. And if you want to see an image, like how it shows up on the newspaper, you can always write down the citation information and go to our microfilm that we have in our library. Okay, so just an example how things are not infallible. Say, for instance, you're looking for somebody named Benny Papu who died in 1911. So I tried chronicling America because it falls within the time period that they cover. And it says, and I limited it to Hawaii, and I got 0 results. So I tried newspapers.com and said, yeah, 1911. And again, he doesn't show up. But if I looked at the archives index to obituaries from 1836 to 1950, yeah, you see this index card for this person who died in 1911. You take this citation information, you look it up on the microfilm on this page, and indeed there is this death notice for Benny Papu. So just so you know, just because it doesn't show up in your online searches, it could still be there. It's just sometimes if the quality of the newspaper or the scan is not that great, the computer won't be able to pick up the words or the letters. So it happens. Okay, so cemetery records, something that people are also interested in. The Hawaiian Pacific section has Nanette Napoleon's guide cemetery index. She was a project director for and directed a group of volunteers to go out to a lot of the smaller cemeteries to gather information from the tombstones. So they to write down, and then I'm pretty sure I think they targeted a lot of the smaller cemeteries. But they like also Makiki Cemetery, and other larger ones, but they did do a lot. They covered Oahu, Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. There's different volumes. One volume is for an index by name. So you can see a list of names here and which cemetery they're at. And then there's the cemetery index that shows you, like this one is St. Anthony's Catholic Church, and it's all the people buried there, and a little bit more information like inscriptions, things like that. So it's a multi-volume set. So just let us know which island you're looking for. Other indexes out there. There is one for Kauai. It was done in 1992. It was another project similar where they sent out students to go inventory different burial places on Kauai. There's no name index, I think. It's a little more difficult to use. We also have this Hawaii State Cemeteries book. It's by DAGS. It's a report on the state-run cemeteries, these 4 here. And the 2 has a kind of like a list of names at each cemetery, but it's a little hard to use as well, but does give you a lot of background information. So it's interesting to read. And we do have a circulating copy available if you wanted to check out our catalog and request it. Okay, online resources. So the Nanette Napoleon Cemetery Index I was talking about, the UH Manoa is putting it up online to this database here. They have only done Oahu so far. I see the other 2 are not highlighted. Only Oahu is highlighted. And these are the cemeteries you can see are on the Oahu index. So you just have to do a keyword search here. There is another website by US Gen Web. It's this tombstone transcription project. It's kind of difficult to use, but again, they have volunteers going out to look at cemeteries. It's last I saw, I think it was updated in 2019, so people are still adding to it, but yeah, it's a little difficult to use. And then finally, Find a Grave, which is probably the best resource out there and is also available through Ancestry, but it's like a free website, so you can always just go visit their website. Like when you can't access Ancestry from home. So it's kind of great because they'll take pictures of the tombstones as well if they can. So you can find a lot of information there. Oh, and I thought I'd just note too that one thing is these cemetery surveys are usually just done once. So if you had a family member who was, caught in the survey, but then perhaps later on they had to be relocated, there won't be a second survey done, so they might have the wrong information. You'll just see that they're at the previous location when they're actually at a new location. Okay, so census records are another, of course, great resource. They're taken every 10 years. They show you the members in a household and a lot of great information like their birthplace, the parents' birthplace, their race and occupation. The first census for Hawaii is 1900, up to 1940 is available to the public. So, and we have 1900 to 1930 on microfilm here in the library. We have a print index available for the 1900 and 1910 census. But I would just strongly recommend using Ancestry or Heritage Quest to search census records. It's a lot easier than what we used to have to do by going to the print index and then going to the microfilm. You'd see a list of names and you'd have to find the ED number and know which district they're in, and then scroll through all the microfilm till you get to the right page number. So it was a really difficult and time-consuming process. But now through Ancestry and Heritage Quest, you can just do a keyword search. And this is an example of the Ancestry screen where you can search just the federal censuses. And I would also recommend that you take a look at their search tips. Ancestry has a learning center and message boards where people really get into the nitty gritty of census searching and other searches. So if you don't find people in census, this is an example of a 1900 census page. So yeah, sometimes the page, something happened to it, I guess. And so your name might be blotted out. But this is a 1900. Definitely, they don't all look like this. It doesn't help if you go to the microfilm, because I tried doing that and the microfilm is worse, at least for the digital census. They were able to clean up the image as much as possible. And here's an example of a 1920 census. So you can see it's very clear and easy to read. The only problem is this census taker's handwriting is a little confusing to read, especially for the people transcribing the information into the databases. So that is another thing to be aware of. You think this is like a flourish or something, but that is actually a D, and the K's are very fancy. So the transcribers can get your information wrong, but luckily Ancestry will, even if you just type in the name you're looking for, they'll try to give you alternative spelling. And you'll see that this is a 1940 census. The censuses change over the years. The 1920 and 1900 census gave you the where the parents' names, parents were born in this columns here. But that's removed in this 1940 census. But the good thing is it's also available through the National Archives website here. So if, again, you can't access Ancestry or you don't have a library card, there's still the National Archives website. And they also have these great, neat census maps too you can download. I don't think I saw that on Ancestry. And just a little example of all the weird handwriting styles that are out there. People, maybe the younger generation might not be as familiar with cursive, so they might have to study up on that. Okay, so here's another strategy tip. When I was searching for my grandparents, I could find them in all the other censuses, but just not the 1920 census. And I couldn't figure out why. I tried searching by his name. I tried searching by the children's names, the wife's name, but nothing would come up. So when I did actually find it, like this is why. It's too faded to see. So what I had to do was what I did was I browsed the collection. You can see this browse here on the right column. I just selected Hawaii territory. Honolulu is the county for Oahu. And I knew he lived between Kahalu and Ka'ava. So the description for Ko'olaupoku said it was like around there, past Heia. So I brought that up and just browsed page by page, and by page 33, I did see this indeed looked like my last name. And my grandfather's name was Neil. The problem here is he put Neil as his last name, or this either he or there was miscommunication with the census taker. So Sueyoshi is his first name here. And that's why you'll see even his children are given the last name Neo when it should be Sueyoshi, which is Sugeyoski, transcribed by the ancestry. So yeah, sometimes browsing is your only strategy. Okay, immigration records. We do have microfilm from the Hawaii State Archives on passenger manifests from before 1900. The indexes go by like general, Portuguese, Chinese, and Japanese. If you're looking for Hawaiian names, they fall under general. And if you find somebody in there, you can find them in the actual manifest lists, which are organized strictly by date, chronologically. And like I said, this microfilm was from the Hawaii State Archives. So they've put their indexes on their website here. But if you look at Ancestry, they also have they've scanned the microfilm. So I would just recommend checking Ancestry if you can. It's a lot easier. Okay, directories are another source of information that's great. It's easy to use. We have it in print. For the older ones, we have it on microfilm as well to fill in any gaps that we have. It does get a little spotty the farther you get. You can follow your relative throughout the years, see what they were doing. Some of the earlier ones you'll see, this is like the closest you'll get to an address, just a location, but it'll also give you their employment. And for and in the later ones, you can see who the wife was. They might list the wife, or if they're a widow, it'll say widow. Like here, it's this Helen Kapuni is the widow of William. We also have phone books, so if you can't find them in the city directories, like the Polk city directories, you can try the Hawaiian or GTE phone books that we have. And the older ones, we have it on microfiche here, and you'll have to look at them at one of our microfilm reader printers and our scanner. Okay, so there are a lot of things that are available online as well. Ancestry has a lot of the later ones, like you can see in this list here, it's 1959 city directory, easy to search. You can limit your search to just city directories. Ulukau has also a few of the old ones on their website. So they label them all Polk's city directories, or I think they have 1880, 1890, 1900 maybe. HathiTrust Digital Library is also a great source of information. I just did a search for Honolulu directory, and you'll see a whole bunch come up. They even have the Bennett, really old ones. And of course, yeah, Ulukau and HathiTrust are all free to use. Okay, yearbooks. The Hawaiian Pacific section has a large collection of yearbooks. It's based on donations, so it's not complete. Yeah, we have a lot of pukas, but it is still quite large. So if you want to take a look, like if you wanted a picture of one of your relatives when they were in school, That's a great source. If they perhaps were a teacher, the teachers were also had their photos taken. So it's fun to use. We keep them behind the reference desk, so you would ask for them at a reference desk. We have you fill out a yearbook request form, and we limit you to looking at 5 yearbooks at a time in the library. And we ask to hold on to a picture ID while you're using the yearbooks. You can see a list of what's available on our website here. Or you can always just call us, ask if we have a certain school or year available. We have a photocopier scanner as well if you need. Some people just use their phone and take a picture with their camera. And some yearbooks are available on Ancestry, so you might get lucky and get a hit there. Okay, so we have other resources in our book collection as well. We have Men of Hawaii, Men and Women of Hawaii, those kind of biographical dictionaries. So if perhaps a relative was a business person, there's a lot of businessmen listed in there with photos and of course their history. Certain ethnicities like this Portuguese Hawaiian memories or the Chinese of Hawaii that are kind of old. We also have some for the different counties, and we even have some of these submitted family histories, published family histories. So if you want to take a look at those, you can always go to our if you want to see what we have, you can always go to our catalog on our website at www.librarieshawaii.org. You can do a search for Hawaiian genealogy. We have a subject term, genealogy-Hawaii. So it'll bring like a lot of those up. And yeah, there's too much to really talk about, like the Edith Mackenzie Hawaiian genealogy books. She was grabbing published Hawaiian genealogies that were published in the Hawaii newspapers and put them in book form. So these are really great resources that you can use, but you can check our catalog to see what we have. And of course, you can look at them either in the library if they're referenced, and sometimes we have circulating copies. So yeah, you can totally request them to borrow. Okay, so I think that is time. And I'm ready to take questions if you have any.
Hey, Linda.
Hi, sorry if I went too fast, but
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so we do have a few questions on our Q&A. Our first question is, do you have fiche readers? Can people bring their own microfilm and fiche to use your readers and scanners and printers?
Oh, well, I was told that you're not supposed to bring in your own film to read on our microfilm reader printers, except for military or like veterans. They get their records on fiche. That was what I was told. So if you, yeah, you can use if you're a veteran or you have military fiche.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we have one person asking if records are available for all islands. I think this was kind of near your cemetery guide index.
Oh, okay.
Presentation.
So if like those cemetery indexes are available at other libraries, is that it?
Yeah, they're just asking if records are available for all islands, and I'm assuming it just means probably in general, like vital statistics and cemetery and all those things.
Yeah, so the Department of Health records, their vital records I was talking about, yeah, they are for covering all islands. The cemetery records, just the ones that I showed, since they're done by volunteers. So you could see that they did, Annette Napoleon's one did Oahu and Maui County, and the other project did Kauai. So I know the that Tombstone transcription website was doing the Big Island.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yes, the cemetery indexes, yeah, they're mostly done by volunteers, so that one's very spotty.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone that may have raised their hand during the presentation that you can type what you would like to ask in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and get to your questions. Okay, so next one. Linda, in terms of those delayed birth records, are the testimonies available at HSPLS or is it just an index?
The testimonies and the certificates are all together on a reel, on these reels that we have for that short time period between 1904 to 1913. I mean, and that's covering the birthday, the people who were born between 1904 to 1913. So
Okay.
yeah, that's all we have. But if we don't have it here, then like I usually tell people that the Family History Center, some of the Family History Centers have it. So they can always check there, like the one on Beartanya Street.
Okay, okay, cool. All right, next question. Someone is asking, how do they find out what's available in, I guess, in other branches of the library, like the branches nearest to them?
Oh, sometimes you'll find it in the catalog. But if not, I would call to check because sometimes there are, we have things that are not in the catalog because they're not maybe easily cataloged. So yeah, I would check with the library.
Okay, okay, thank you. We have one person who's just asking if you could go back to the handwriting sample page one more time.
Okay, let's see. This one, yeah. Don't ask me where it's from because this was from my old boss's files. He had this. I thought it was really cool. I thought maybe he got it from Ancestry because it looks like the kind of handwriting you see in the censuses. And I know Ancestry has all these help sheets and things like that, but I couldn't find it again on there, so I don't know where it's from.
Okay, okay, no worries. Someone is asking how far back your yearbooks go.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, and it depends on the school. Let's see if I can. Well, it depends on the school. Like McKinley has some pretty old ones.
Should I just put the link for the yearbook website in the chat?
Yeah, yeah. Take a look. I think some of them go back like to 1920s, 1920s.
Okay, we'll put the link in the chat for the person who asked the question about the yearbooks, and you can look to see what the holdings are at the Hawaii State Public Library. Let's see. We will be sending out a link to you guys in about a week with the recording from today. For those of you that are asking for if the recording's available, if the links and stuff are going to be available as a handout or a worksheet, we are going to be sending something out in about a week, and it'll be also with the live recording for this YouTube webinar. Okay. All right, Linda. So let me see. Okay, so someone is asking, my Hanai'd Hawaiian grandfather said he legally changed his name. Records were found in his birth name. Where can I look for the name change records if you know?
Oh.
That one, it depends on the year, yeah?
Yeah.
Oftentimes when you change your names, they have to publish it in the newspaper as a legal notice. So that might be a good place to check the newspaper index, or Linda, you mentioned newspapers.com.
Right, newspapers.com, they'll search, so even things beyond that 1922 period that the Library of Congress has. So yeah, I would recommend that too. And there was a place you would check for recordings, but was it the Bureau of Conveyance? No, that doesn't seem right.
I think the Hawaii court records should show name changes.
Yeah.
I think you have to register it with the court, but I'm unsure. I have seen notices of name changes in the newspaper before, but again, it depends on what year your Hanai grandfather changed his name, I believe. Okie dokie. Linda, you ready for the next question?
Sure. Oh yeah. Oh wait, actually, I just want to say that, yeah, I did see like even my relatives changing their name in the newspapers. So yeah, even like in the 60s and stuff, or 50s. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Next question. Someone's asking if they can donate yearbooks to the Hawaii State Public Library.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We it's really we'd be really grateful for your yearbooks. Of course, you can always check our list first, see if we have it or not. Sometimes we want to keep a second copy too, though, backup copy in case one of our yearbooks gets damaged. They are very, rare, hard to replace items. So yeah, we would. But if we have a copy and a backup copy, to warn you, we might not want to keep a third copy. So it could go to the Friends of the Library book sale if we decide we don't need it, or we might give it to the maybe the library nearest the school to see if they want to have a copy.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Someone's asking if you have any U.S. Army records from World War One. Oh, two. Sorry, World War Two.
Oh, we have the Ancestry has the draft registration cards for World War II and other records like that you can get also from the National Archives website. They have a lot of military records there.
Cool.
But yeah, not in our library, no. Yeah, it would be through Ancestry or the National Archives.
Perfect. And then I think this is our last question. The person says they're interested in learning more about the Portuguese ships and immigrant records at the Honoka'a Library on the Big Island.
Oh,
What's in them, and are those copies of records that might be elsewhere, such as the Hawaii State Archives?
I have not seen the Honoka'a records. I'm kind of wondering if, yeah, if it's pre-1900, like the ones that are from the archives, or which, we just have the microfilm for. So we also, if you look on our genealogy handout too, we have other Portuguese resources. And one of them is passenger, like a passenger index. So we do have that, but yeah, we don't have what Honoka'a has. So yeah, I would definitely check with them. You can like try ask a librarian service, maybe email your question. We can forward it to them.
Cool. Okay. And people are typing questions. As I said, it was the last
No.
question. We do have a few more minutes left
Yeah.
to answer questions. And again, guys, like I said, the recording of this webinar and the slides will be available via YouTube in about a week, along with links and all those things that you guys are asking about in terms of recording and having a copy of what we did today. Let's see. We do have a question about the Garden Isle newspaper collection. It says that the collection date ranges kind of look spotty just for the main library in Honolulu. Would HPL branch in Lihue have other years on microfilm? Like would the island itself, their library have more?
If he's looking, if he's talking about my slide that showed the Garden Island index, that's just the index indexing years. So we have the Garden Island newspaper on microfilm, like the whole run, but the index is only depends on who did it. So sometimes they only manage to do a few years. That's why it looks very spotty. But unless he's looking at our catalog, but we should have it on microfilm.
Perfect. And someone's asking if you can have materials from your library sent to branches to, I guess, their home branch.
Some of the resources that we have duplicate copies that can be sent to the branches as reference loans, but I think a lot might not be. You'd have to come to the library to use it. Or some things could be circulating that you could just borrow like a regular book, like that Hawaiian Genealogies book. So yeah, it just depends. You can check our catalog. The catalog will show you if we have a second copy, reference copy. And we don't loan out microfilm though.
Okay. And not all the libraries have microfilm and microfiche readers. For those of you who are online today, It really depends what's at your branch, and you can always call your local branch to see if they have something available if you're not sure when you're reading the catalog. Let's see. People are have a lot of questions. Linda, thank you for bearing with me while I go through all of them. And then guys, if it's not a question, if you guys can just put those comments in the chat and not the Q&A, that'll help me sort through what's just comments and what's questions. Okay, there was one more. Oh, our oral history is a good source for genealogy, and where are they cataloged?
Oh, yeah, oral histories are great if you have them for your family. I did see some in our genealogy kind of collection for some of the more well-known people. Depends on how you want to, how you're going to use it. I mean, it's not like some people, it's people's recollections. So, and they'll talk about family. So it is a good resource if you're lucky enough to have one. I mean, we have some you can check our catalog to see if your family is covered. We get a lot of ours from the University of Hawaiʻi at Manoa's Oral History Center.
So Center for
fun.
Oral Histories.
Center
It's
for
in
Oral
their
History.
Ethnic Studies department. Yeah, true. And they have transcripts of all their oral history projects.
So yeah, we have the transcripts.
Perfect. Okay. And then someone's asking, do you take family genealogies or should I donate them elsewhere?
If we will take some, like if they're in a nice format that will not fall apart. Because if you saw the picture of our shelf, they're usually bound and well done. So yeah, we will take some. We'll take a look at it. You can just like send us an email or give us a call. And I'd probably want to see a copy first.
Perfect. Okay. I think we've answered everyone's questions for the day. There is someone who wanted us to see what they wrote in the chat message. And I believe it's JCCH Resources, the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii Reference Center has some old yearbooks for local Japanese school, as well as genealogical resources for people wanting to trace their ancestry back to Japan. Thank you so much for whoever posted that. That's really useful information for us. We also had one member tell us that possibly older name change decrees are kept at the Hawaii State Archives, but I'm unsure about that. I believe that the person who asked the question earlier, the name change might have been in 1962. So I believe it should have been posted in the newspaper if it's that current. But again, if you guys need help with research, you're more than welcome to use the Linda, the e-resources chat on the website, the Ask a Librarian.
Oh yeah.
Ask a Librarian reference question. And that will give us more time to make sure that we give you guys the most accurate answer possible for your questions to the best of our ability. All righty. So I just want to make sure that I thank Linda again today for taking time out of her day to talk to us. I learned new things during the presentation that I didn't know. So I'm really stoked that you came out today.
Yeah, thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you to all of the people behind the scenes pressing all the tech buttons today too. There are so many people who are helping out doing these webinars that really make it run really smooth. So thank you to all of them. And thank you to the Institute for Museum, Library, and the Institute for Museum and Library Science, who helped to sponsor this webinar series. So without further ado, I'm gonna tell everyone thank you. And I hope that everyone has a really, really nice day. Okay.